What's up, guys? Koolaid here. Welcome to another episode of Killing Time with Koolaid. I haven't done one of these in a couple weeks, and I've had a lot of new subscribers since then, so if you're unfamiliar with the series, basically what happens here is I usually ramble on a little bit about some sort of Planetside 2 related topic or some channel update information, and then it's usually followed by questions that were submitted by you guys. And I want to change this series up a little bit, make it more focused on just the questions that you guys submit. And I'd like to be able to post one of these videos up every week. Maybe eventually set it to a certain day, maybe Fridays or Mondays. I don't know. But anyways, from now on it is just mainly going to be a question and answer type video. I'm not going to do too much talking outside of that. And I think you guys are going to do a good job of giving me enough questions to make this a weekly series. And I have all the faith in the world in you guys. So anyways, I do have one little thing I want to mention before we actually get started today. And that is I am going back to work next week. Some of you may know that I have been laid off for about 7 weeks, which has allowed me to put out a lot of videos more frequently. And starting next week, it's not going to be the case anymore. I'm going to be, slow down to maybe 2 or 3 videos a week. But what I really want to say is the first week I go back, next week, it's going to be really slow. I have to do my videos in the morning while I'm working, and my sleep schedule's really messed up right now. I've been sleeping in till like noon, staying up till like 4 in the morning. So next week is probably going to be one of the slowest weeks you'll ever see from me. I'll make sure to get the weekly patch notes and news video up. I'll make sure to get a Killing Time with Koolaid up. But aside from that, you might not see another video. You might have to wait a couple weeks for the tips videos that I promise to start doing again more regularly at least. So anyways, let's jump into the questions. The first one is by Silent Blade, and he just wants to know my PC specs. I answer this question a lot. I'm fine with answering it about once a month, just for the people that don't know where to find the information, or just curious about what I'm running. But I am running an i7 4770K, 780 GTX for a graphics card, 16 gig of RAM, and I do have a 250 gig SSD drive, as well as a 4 terabyte, solid state, or not solid, a 4 terabyte normal hard drive that I put all my recording, everything I record on. I do need that big of hard drive in case I'm just lazy and don't feel like removing all the crap that I'm not using. But those are my PC specs. Pretty simple. There you have it. Next question is by Zero Connor, and he's actually in my outfit, but he wants to know if I am opposed to the idea of a Call of Duty style tactical knife attachment for secondary weapons. To be honest with you, I don't remember the Call of Duty tactical knife very well. I think I kind of have an idea what it was. Basically, you ran around with your pistol and your knife out at the same time, and it made knifing a little bit faster. I think it might be too good on infiltrators. I think that's, you mentioned commissioner knifing, and I think that might be too good if you're actually using the same knife where, you can get the shot knife combinations with. If they made it a different knife altogether, I could see that working. But, at that time, I don't know if it would be worth even using. So, I don't know if it would work very well in Planetside 2. There'd have to be some alterations to the knife itself, I think, or throw in a whole different knife completely. Next, 828 Morton actually has a couple questions. First, he wants to know, would you like to see giant biolabs consisting of 2 or 3 domes connected together? There will be much bigger landing pads with larger doors to reduce the bottleneck. And I actually think that's a excellent idea. Honestly, I hate biolabs with a passion. I avoid them at all costs. Even in biolab alerts, I'll just often log out because they'll drive me nuts. I just absolutely hate playing in biolabs. To spread it out to make 2 or 3 domes, I think would be really cool. The bigger landing pads with larger doors. You might not even need that if you just have the multiple domes with, or if you have, if you have the multiple domes with more landing pads. Say each dome had 2 landing pads, so you have 6 total at each Biolab. I think that would just open up. It might make it a little bit harder to defend, but honestly, the way Biolabs are right now, I would take anything. I just absolutely hate them. They're just a giant mess to me, and like I said, I avoid them at all costs. So I do like that idea. And he also asked, would you like to see cities spanning across multiple territories? In parentheses, it says you would not be able to go inside of every building. I actually think that would be cool. I don't know how well it would work with the hex system, and would the cities have the bases contained inside them? Would they be kind of in the middle where they're not actually containing the bases or the capture points, I guess I should say. I think it would definitely spice up the environment. I think it would look cool. I just don't know how well it would work. I don't know. That's kind of a hard question because I'd have to kind of see the exact idea you're talking about. But I do think it would be cool, definitely. Next, Lawrence Freeman wants to know what sidearms I use in conjunction with the NS7 PDW and the Blitz GD10. I don't use the NS7 PDW very much at all, but I would use the same sidearm with that as I use with the Blitz, and that is the Desperado. Desperado, to me, is the best finisher sidearm in the game. It can also be used as a solid primary if you run out of ammo in your submachine gun. I do like the Commissioner a lot. I think that's always a good choice, but when I'm running submachine guns, I like more finisher type weapons, ones where I can just pull them out and rapid fire, as opposed to the Commissioner where you got to aim your shots a little bit more. Just submachine gun situations are a little more frantic, I guess you could say, and I don't want to have to be as precise. So I would definitely go with the Desperado if I'm using it in conjunction with the Blitz or the NS7 PDW. Dominic L wants to know, what's the stupidest strategy you've ever actually used that's been successful? And that's a hard question because half the stuff I do in this game is incredibly stupid. The one strategy that I use all the time that works all the time, actually it doesn't work all the time. I just happen to remember more often the times that it works than when it doesn't, is when I just run straight at a giant group of people, zigging and zagging, and then end up getting a nice chunk of kills afterwards. That's always a good stupid strategy that happens to work a lot in this game. I do a lot of stupid stuff on the light assault as well, where I will just kind of float into a giant group and start, putting C4 down everywhere, where I should have no chance to survive that, and I'll somehow come out unscathed. If you guys remember back a while in one of my montages, I actually flew straight up in a Reaver, jumped out and shot the enemy Reaver with a Shrike. That was actually completely planned on my part, and I never tried doing stuff like that. I just happened to come up with that one day. I'm like, I'm going to try to do this, and it worked. My very first attempt. I tried a few times after that and failed miserably, but you could say that was a stupid strategy that I actually had some success with. But that's just kind of a hard question. I don't have any one thing that really comes to mind, mainly because a lot of the stuff I do in this game is just incredibly stupid, or at least that's how a lot of people would look at it. And if I ever got to stream, if I ever got on a normal streaming schedule, which is not likely to happen as much as I wish it could happen, you guys would see just how often I do really stupid stuff. I wish you guys could see that. I think you maybe got a taste of it in some of my live commentaries I did, but in those I was actually trying to play a little bit more safer than I normally do. So anyways, I hope that answered your question. Moving on to the next one, we got Alex Bowen 727, and he wants to know, what faction do you dislike more, VS or TR, and why? He doesn't actually include NC in there because I do mainly play NC, so that makes sense. I would say out of VS and TR, I just have a natural dislike for TR. Don't really know why. I think it goes back to the beginning of the game when TR outnumbered everybody, and it's kind of flipped since then a little bit, where NC is the #1 faction right now. But I think that's always been kind of stuck in my head, and just going by the lore, and a lot of people refer to the TR as the space Nazis and all that. I guess TR, but I don't really have a huge dislike for any of the one factions. Next, Nick097A7 wants to know, do you run med kits on the Infiltrator? And if you watch enough of my videos, you'll know that I do run med kits on my SMG loadout. But on my sniping loadout and my stalker cloak loadout, I do run anti-personnel mines. I think both are really good in certain situations. I just find that when I'm playing submachine gun infiltrator, that the med kits keep my streaks alive a lot longer and just make me a little bit more of a force to be reckoned with, I guess you could say. So yes, I do use medkits on my infiltrator, but not all my loadouts. Next, Mr. Ripboard asked, how do you think Sony can buff the nano armor cloak to make it competitive against other cloaks? And I'm glad you asked this question, because this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I actually don't think nano armor cloak is bad at all in its current form, but my problem is it's just too much like Hunter Cloak. If you look at Stalker, it's completely, it completely alters how you play Infiltrator. But if you're using Nano Armor Cloak, you play pretty much the exact same way you would play if you had Hunter Cloak equipped. So if I could change Nano Armor Cloak, I would turn it into more of a very short duration cloak, somewhere around only 3 to 5 seconds. But I'd also make it have incredibly fast regen time, and I'd greatly increase the damage absorption. Basically, it would force you to use your cloak for defense only, and I know some of you wouldn't even think about using a cloak like this, but as it stands, it's just not different enough from Hunter Cloak to make me want to use it that often. I'd rather just have, the extra cloak duration of Hunter, where I just don't even think about the damage absorption aspect of Nano Armor Cloak. So I wouldn't necessarily buff it. I would just change it altogether. Make the main aspect of the Nano Armor Cloak, which is that damage absorption shield, I would just make that more pronounced. So anyways, moving on to the last question of the video, and I am going to try to keep these videos within a 10 to 15 minute time frame. The amount of questions that I answer is not limited, just as long as it falls within that 10 to 15 minutes. But anyways, L. Becker wants to know if I feel like the Infiltrator Cloak is underpowered. And he goes on to say the sound is too loud, and it feels like every player can see a cloaked infiltrator within 50 meters. In parentheses, it says when they are not playing on low graphics, of course. And no, I do not think the Infiltrator Cloak is underpowered at all, especially with the recent changes they made where you can enter deep cloak state incredibly fast using any cloak. If you were used to kind of staying hidden before, it's going to be a lot easier now. But overall, I think a lot of people look at the Infiltrator Cloak the wrong way. A lot of people want it to be an invisibility shield, or wants it to make them invisible, is what I'm trying to say. And that's not how you look at it. You got to look at it as camouflage. One of the tips that I gave way back in my Infiltration 101 video was, if you're just kind of starting out as Infiltrator, if you're struggling using the cloak, use the cloak and pretend like you're not even cloaked. Just pretend like everybody can see you as Cloak. And you kind of want to play like that until you start finding the situations where you are going to stay hidden because of Cloak, where people aren't going to see you because of Cloak, where you can actually utilize Cloak the best. And a lot of what it comes down to is angles and approaching your enemies. You can do it a lot more leniently if you have the Cloak on. You don't have to directly flank from behind. If you have a preoccupied enemy that you're looking at, you can come at them from not directly the front, but from at a very better angle than you could if you weren't using Cloak. Things like that. I can't explain it all in this one question, but to answer your question simply, I do not feel that it is underpowered. I actually think it's in a really good state. I think Infiltrator class as a whole is in a really, really good state right now. We have not only really good killing abilities, but we also have some class support abilities now with the hacking, of course, and the motion spotters and all that. I think we're just in a really good spot in general. So anyways, guys, that is the last question. As you can tell, the Infiltrator questions I usually talk a little bit more about. They're a little bit in my area of expertise. So anyways, guys, that is all I have. Make sure you keep sending the questions via private message on YouTube. Make sure you put mailbag or something like that in the title, and I'll make sure to get them answered at some point. Like I said, I want to make this a weekly series. I hope you guys enjoy these. I actually really enjoy making these videos. These are probably my favorite videos to make, so making this a weekly series shouldn't be too big of a problem as long as I have the questions to answer. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.
1, 4.